Hello, everyone. Today we have a very special speaker, Dr. John Tanacredi, Professor of Earth and Environmental Science at Malloy University. He is also the director of CERCOM, which is the Center for Environmental Research and Coastal Oceans Monitoring. And we are especially very thankful to you, Dr. Tanacredi, for giving us your time today, and especially so that young people, everyone, but young people can hear about your career, what brought you to where you are today at Malloy College, your background, and a little bit about advice that you can offer them for their own future decision making. Dr. Tanacredi and I first met at Gateway National Recreation Area at Floyd Bennett Field in Brooklyn, where I was working for the National Park Service, but not as a park ranger, as a marine biology technician in their overnight camping program, which was a lot of fun. And then many years later, we reconnected while I was working at the American Museum of Natural History. And I had the opportunity to have his interns from one of the environmental groups that he was working with uh, to be able to join me in my work with the collections, managing the collections at the Museum of Natural History. And of course, Dr. Tanacredi, you can fill in anywhere you wish for that story. But so the first question that I would like to ask you for our viewers today is what is your background, and what brought you through your career and to the point where you are today at Malloy University?
Thank you, Lisa, and welcome everyone who is on board. I should mention, just as a side note, that the eco village that we were working with at the time is still going on at Gateway National Recreation Area. So some things do have a legacy associated with them. And for NISMIA, it has always been dear to my heart, and established one of the first NISMIA conferences was at Dowling College when I was there way back in the early 2000s. And I can honestly say congratulations on the 50th anniversary. It's truly an informative and important aspect of science, is to be able to link all of the scientific work that scientists are doing with educational opportunities. And for those students that are listening in on this, there is no direct line from your education to your career. It's a meandering, constantly changing, and opportunistic. You need to take advantage of activities. I tell my students all the time that there is nobody that can get paid for everything that they want to do. So volunteerism is a very, very big part of the career path, and certainly in STEM disciplines. The idea of, for example, I'm the STEM hub coordinator for Long Island in life and environmental sciences out of Brookhaven National Labs, and the STEM hub deals with the connection. You should, and I love saying this at this point right now, just Google this type of thing, because the STEM hub is very important in dealing with your own career paths in any of the science, technology, engineering, or mathematics. As far as personally, I was born and bred in Brooklyn, New York, and I used to walk to Coney Island to go fishing off the fishing pier. But I volunteered as a docent at the New York Aquarium back in the 1960s, I'm afraid to say. And when I came out of the high school, I was always into reading. One of the things I can suggest to anybody if they're just starting out in their education and thinking about a career in science, you really have to be passionate about getting information in the literature. So there's a host of books that you should take the opportunity to spend some time with. But as far as education, I got a bachelor's degree in biological sciences, and it was through Richmond College. It's now called the College of Staten Island in City University of New York. I had a master's degree in environmental health sciences out of an HEW fellowship. And that's another thing I tell students all the time: fellowships, scholarships, internships, all the ships that you can gather should be a big part of your search and what schools you're looking at. If you're in high school right now, if you're looking and you're a senior and you're looking at getting into a college program, those should be not only because of the economics, but also because they can gear you toward a certain part of your career path that you wouldn't get in a job or even in a volunteer situation. I got my PhD in environmental engineering. It was called Brooklyn Polytechnic for many years. It was, but it then became Polytechnic Institute and Polytechnic University. But now it is the Tandon School of Engineering at NYU, and NYU has a great program in environmental health. So that's part of the education background in the profession. But all the jobs that I had, again, this meandering path led me at some time to have something that I brought with me when I finally retired and went full time in 2000 into academia. I spent 3 years in the United States Navy as a flight meteorologist, hurricane hunter, flew in hurricane season 1969, Camille, which was the biggest hurricane ever to hit landform in the United States, and also the 3 years with the U.S. Coast Guard on Governor's Island as an environmental analyst, and learned about estuaries because of the research on bridge and highway construction along the coastline. And then the next 24 years, I was a research ecologist with the National Park Service, duty stationed at Gateway National Recreation Area, but got involved in two major activities, again, volunteering even in the job, to be part of the Coastal Barrier Parks program from Acadia in Maine to Gulf Islands in the Gulf of Mexico, and in international affairs, and did 4 expeditions to Easter Island and have a book on Easter Island. So all of the work and work-related aspects was ended up in literature. I have over 75 or so peer-reviewed publications in my research agenda, and then also 9 books at the last count. The latest one, The Redesigned Earth, which was in 2019, talking about many of the case studies that are associated with working in the environmental field. The last thing I'll just mention about this, as far as the profession, there are tons of groups that have a definitive influence on your background. The New York Aquarium was spectacular. I was there when Dr. Ruggieri was there, and he wrote a book called The Healing Sea. And I read that book like it was biblical in nature. And from that point on, I was inspired to be involved in some kind of marine association, marine environment. I
And
worked
can you give us the name of that book again, Dr. Tanacredi?
the Healing Sea by George Ruggieri. And from that, the idea of working in my dissertation for my master's degree and for my PhD, which had to do with oil pollution and had to do with bivalves. I was interested in hard-shell clams and working with that, even before horseshoe crabs started going about, dealing with invertebrate ecology. And you'll see, again, the paths took me everywhere. I went to Rutgers for 2 years so I could study with Hal Haskins. I mean, if it wasn't for Hal Haskins' influence on me, I would have not. He developed the passion in me more than anyone else in looking at natural systems, and he was inspirational in the work that for me in my career.
And
But
so
right now,
we want to make sure that that our viewers understand. We see that you have a stellar background, and when they are pursuing their own careers, that the message that we're hearing is that they should be looking in all areas. That, as you said
right.
earlier, it's straight path to from school to into the career and throughout the career. And
Absolutely.
so,
And
can you lead us on a path of some kind to get close to where you are today?
well, I have two suggestions. One is uh, get involved with what I call NGO groups, non-governmental organizational groups like NISMIA, Audubon chapters, uh, uh, Sierra Club, any of the conservation groups. If you're interested in law, there's Environmental Law Institute. They're going to be talking about whales in New York City coming up fairly soon. And then something we've been doing, this is our 13th year, called Saturday Science for Students. It's at the Explorers Club, the World Center for Exploration in New York, in Manhattan. And we bring in scientists to talk about their career paths. It's basically a STEM breakfast. We have a breakfast for everybody. It's free of charge. You don't have to pay for it. You come in and listen to the career paths, get a little tour of the Explorers Club at the end of that session. And we do 3 of them in the spring semester and 3 during the fall semester, once a month. If you're interested in that, just email me at jtanacredi@molloy.edu. Or I'll give this material to Lisa so that she put it in the newsletter, and you'll be able to hear all about it. But the key to anybody's career, first you got to love what you're doing. You also have to concentrate on plenty of time. There's a lot of time that goes on. We like to say, at least I used to say all the time, science is a 24-hour clock. I mean, there's just no time period that you're going to be doing things. Look at horseshoe crabs. The best time is at full moon or new moon, at the high tide, and that could be 2 o'clock in the morning. So if you're out there working in the environmental field, you have to have a passion for that. I would certainly volunteer for programming of disciplines that pique your interest at this point. And if you're in an academic program, I'll give you an example of something that just happened today. It was just, I got an email from a student that 5 years ago, she was a high school student, and she was interested in doing a special project in high school and in climate. And being an ex-meteorologist and a hurricane hunter, I said, well, how about we look at hurricanes? And so she spent her junior year in high school doing this project. And I get a call. This is 5 years ago. I got a call from her yesterday. She's at Columbia University. She's in her junior year, and she's setting up to do with a senior project. And she thought of the work that she did with me on hurricanes, and she thought that she could pursue that again. And would I be interested in mentoring her at Columbia? I said, sounds good to me. It's terrific. That's the way to do it. You really
So that's
have
great.
to make a
That's
commitment.
great. That's great. We have students, college students should also be looking for mentors
Yes.
while they're in college,
Yeah.
and even beyond for their postdoctoral work. And so that's a very important aspect that um, students should really be cued into, and start working on, and start even considering when they're in high school, so that when they're in college, they should already be looking around and asking questions and finding out what institutions they might be able to enter into a mentorship position with. So, for example, like in at the American Museum of Natural History, there is a program where you can do scientific work with a mentor from other institutions.
Yep.
So students should actually be looking at all those opportunities while they're also doing and pursuing their coursework. And now, could we have some background from you about your work with the CIRCOM?
The center is a field station. And if you're interested in marine sciences or in any type of coastal science, field stations are part of the academic network. And and that and I forgot to mention, and you'll not talk to me anymore because I remember we were almost 15 years of time at the American Museum of Natural History in invertebrate zoology. And it's not, the key there was that the students were independent. They came in, they had a project and they worked on it, and it was great experiences. I still hear from several students about the time that they were at the museum, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to, that's what I have told students from day one. This is the day you start your network. You have to have this understanding that there'll be all of these stops along this meandering path, but there are certain things that you're going to be gaining some background experiences and capabilities that you can't just get by being paid in a job. Summer employment is a wonderful thing, but I tell people, students, certainly if they're undergraduates at this point, right now, January and February is the time of the year that you go to the federal job information line, and there's summer seasonal positions that are being announced all over the world, but certainly in the United States, in national parks, fish and wildlife refuges, and there's a long list of applicants. But if you don't start now, you don't wait till June or July to apply for a summer job. You apply for the summer jobs now. And I've had students working at national parks. I have wildlife refuges on Long Island. Working, there's on Governor's Island. They have a program there that is Billion Oyster Project that students have been doing summer internships there. And certainly internships were all year long at the Museum of Natural History. Things were a bit curtailed due to the pandemic, but it's coming back, and I already have a student indicating that interested in going back. The
And if
internships,
I could just interrupt you
yeah,
1 second, I know that you've been bringing your students from
yes,
Malloy University to the American Museum of Natural History,
all the time.
and perhaps you could shed a little light on what those trips were about.
Depending on the course, I have two courses that I teach, a course in ecology and a course, and that's a big, it's a small word with a big topic area. There's all types of ecological study, but I'm an island person, I'm a coastal person, so I tend to emphasize that in my ecological lectures and talks and my experiences. But the ecology class, we will spend time in the marine hall. The marine biology class, the same thing. We look at the evolutionary aspects of it, critically important, taking courses in evolution, natural selection. These are all standard required courses in an undergraduate degree. And if they're going into graduate school, actually, I think the Museum of Natural History has a graduate education master's degree, I believe, that they give. And they also have a PhD program, an international PhD program for conservation biology. So we had one of our students that had applied for that, and and they're very rare numbers. There's the small numbers of people from around the world come in and apply for these particular degree programs. But the network is the key. Everything that you do, it just builds on the contacts that you have and the experiences that may come about, because you can't be everywhere at the same time, right?
And so you have shedded a wonderful light on what students need to consider and think about just by letting us know about your career history, your career path. Can you talk to us, before I get to the second question, can you talk to us briefly about your work with CIRCOM?
The CIRCOM is the only captive breeding laboratory in the Western Hemisphere for horseshoe crabs. So we have spawning animals. We have what are called research affiliates. We have scientists from other countries, other parts of the world that work on horseshoe crabs. There are only 4 horseshoe crab species on Earth. One in the Western Hemisphere, Limulus polyphemus. The other 3 are in Asia. And so we have a relationship with scientists from Japan and from mainland China and Taiwan and Philippines.
And what did the students at the university do in the horseshoe crab lab itself when they were there?
It's an
What kind of
internship.
what kind of jobs did they perform?
Um, well, internship, it has a lot of animal husbandry, right? Maintaining the environment for the animals. They're also involved with, we have certain experiments ongoing, and they would be involved in collecting the data. They may take water quality data. Again, the animal husbandry, feeding the animals, making sure the systems are healthy for the animals that are involved in it. There's no animals sacrificed in this. The horseshoe crabs are are collected on Long Island, and basically the end result would be a publication. We had 4 international conferences. At each of those conferences, we've had students um, in Sasebo, Japan, at Dowling College, in Singapore, in San Diego. Each of the conferences would have a student or two presenting either a poster or some kind of paper. And any of the, excuse me, any of the disciplines, the STEM disciplines, depending on what course you're taking or you have an interest in, you know, we should try to put together a presentation. Posters are done all the time in conferences, hundreds of posters that talk about what you did, learning the scientific method, understanding the difficulties associated with any kind of research project that simulates the real world, or if you're out in the environment on an expedition or going on traveling with a faculty advisor on a research project that they would be working on. This is all part of the experiences of being a scientist or being involved with scientists, is having other people critique and review and take a look at your information that you've presented. I mean, you have to be open to criticism. It's constructive criticism, hopefully, that deals with perspectives, experiences, or other observations. And the whole idea of experimentation, if you haven't learned this already, is the fact is that whatever experiment I may do, anyone else on Earth can do it. And all of those people, a dozen, 100 people, do the same experiment under the same parameters, should come up with the same answer. If they don't, now you have some discussion that's associated with advancing science. What is the difference in the results? How are those results explained? And maybe redo the whole experiment all over again. So, and again, there are experiments that are associated with what is called in situ or ex situ. If you're in the environment, you have a lot of difficulties in reducing the numbers of variables. When you're in a laboratory, it's a lot more controlled if you can do an experiment. Some experiments can't really be done in a laboratory. It has to be kind of philosophically approached. So the key is being a bit critical, observational, questioning, skeptical. We like to say skepticism is a big part of being a scientist these days. And it's really important to discuss things. Don't sharing information is a big part of it. I share everything that I do as far as horseshoe crabs work, and I get comments, and the comments are important. It helps.
So I hear you on that, and I think our viewers appreciate that there is a process for performing experiments and making observations, and that language is the same language all around the world, so that
Yeah.
other scientists can understand the papers that scientists here in America write. We understand their papers. And so that's a very interesting thing to bring up, because since science and research is done the same way everywhere, we want to be able to communicate scientific facts and experimental data and observational data to everyone in the same way. So that brings me to my next question, which is what kind of advice would you offer or tell students and young people so that they can pursue a career in marine science or in um, any of the sciences like geology, oceanography? What kind of tools or skills would you say they would need to possess and arm themselves with, or any kind of advice for that matter?
Well, I would certainly, short of saying come to Malloy and take my courses, but the idea is to spend a little time reading the popular literature on the sciences, and then in that popular literature, conservation, biology, or ecology, they will reference work and where that work is being done, and then find out about internships. If you're an undergraduate, find out about what faculty or people in a laboratory might be doing. If there was a student at Malloy interested in horseshoe crabs, I would certainly sit down and explain. There's quite a bit of topic areas that could be looked at, and if we can help out in that, if there's an interest in it, that would be fine. If you're going to another institution, which has a larger research scale, get involved with some kind of in the field academic travel aspect of it, like spending a semester abroad, getting on a research vessel. Again, all of these things you have to kind of work with the institute that you're going to, institution that you're going to, and then you have to have the time to make the commitment. Again, not just look at it as the economic part of it, but I would definitely volunteer to be involved with some kind of NGO group, not just a once and one time and out type of thing, but something that you have. I when I was an undergraduate, I got involved with NIPER, New York Public Interest Research Group, and would go once a month, and we would sit about and chat about problems and concerns of environmental concern in the city of New York. And we'd do our research, come back and report on it, and there'd be a white paper produced, basically a position paper that NIPERG would then distribute to their members and to anyone who would read it.
So that's a great way to get started in writing
Yeah,
papers, by
sure.
attending groups. And even if the group itself doesn't publish, it would be a great way to write a paper, about the experience you're having in that group. If that paper might be useful later or might be
Yeah.
publishable later. But even if it's not, it's a great start to getting used to writing papers, because that could be one area that a student might pursue. It's not the only area. You did bring up research aboard vessels. I am sitting on the council for the designation of Hudson Canyon as a marine sanctuary, and there is a vessel that's going out. I think later in the year. I think in August, and they are preparing. The build up for the preparation is starting now, and they're just preparing for the work that they will be doing aboard ship. And
Yeah.
they asked the education outreach group, of which I am a part, what are some of the things you'd like to see happen aboard ship? And I wanted to say I'd like to be aboard ship, but I also offered this thought, which is that they consider doing a daily blog, or a daily journal that teachers could access almost immediately, and students could also access this almost immediately, so that they can, on their own, produce products that are useful for them. So for teachers and educators, that would be lesson plans, and for students, that would be almost like decoding all the things, all the activities that were listed in the blog or the journal, of the daily activities, trying to decode that and trying to figure out, all the work and the people that are involved, all the different types of jobs that are involved in leading an expedition, a short expedition. So that's a whole other arena of work. But you did bring it up, and it really should, be insightful to everyone. And I thank you very much for highlighting that, because not everybody thinks about offshore jobs in their careers or for their careers. Sometimes it's only land-based, marine science, but land-based in a laboratory or in an institution of higher learning such as yours. And so there are many areas to look at and to pursue. Um, but I want to thank you very much for letting us into your area of work, and giving us highlights of your background, and what brought you to this line of work and to where you are today at Malloy University, and your work at CIRCOM. And I think that anyone listening to this interview will be able to get a lot of information, for being able to start their journey and figure out, perhaps the things they should be looking at critically, and then go and talk to their advisor
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
professor and all the professors at their college or university, and just keep up the conversation and talk to everybody constantly, and keep pushing back and keep pushing for information from them. And if you would like to finish off, we'll close. But I wanted to give you the opportunity for any last few words.
Lisa, the last word is persistence, without a doubt. Don't give up, because not everyone's going to be as passionate about you as a student in what you find to be interesting, and ultimately just gather as much information as you can about it, and everything will be moving in the right direction, right?
Thank you, Dr. Tanacredi. This has been a very enlightening talk and interview, and we very much appreciated the time that you gave us today in celebration of our 50th anniversary. So thank you very much again, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you.